All right, guys, we're back again with another great episode of PFREI. I'm your host, Fuquan Bilal. Today, I'm coming to you from the poolside. I'm down here in Siesta Keys, living the beach and life. And I have my good buddy, Ron Walraven from Waymark Homes, LLC, here today. Kind of talk about his experience and his journey in real estate. As you guys know, I always bring active, credible people to the show to kind of talk about their experience and give you things that you can learn from. So yeah, let's just actually the first question that I usually thank you for coming to the show. We'll start with your background first, if you can explain to the audience what your background is, and then we'll get started. With the questions. So talk about your background. How did you get started?
Okay, well, I'm from Detroit, the Detroit area, so most people know it's an automotive town, right? Came out of high school, went and got a technical degree as an auto mechanic, and started fixing cars right out of high school in the car dealerships. Did that for about 17, 18 years. Hurt my back really bad in 1998. So when I was sitting around recouping from that, trying to figure out how I was going to make six figures again, I took my real estate class and started doing real estate. And I kind of fell into the REO market. I've been selling REOs and for banks, the bank-owned foreclosures for many years. I kind of fit my personality because I was more of a shop rat than I am a retail agent. Even to this day, I don't like doing retail business. I refer that stuff out to others to do because it's just not my mindset in a sense. And so around 99, I got my license, hooked up with a local broker who was doing foreclosures, kind of fell into it a little bit, turned one client into two, into three, and made my REO run from 2002 to 2009-ish when the world imploded at the time. But in that time frame, I listed and closed roughly about 3,500 houses for the banks. I had done a lot of business by the time the crash had happened. And then I just kind of retooled a little bit. I never went to short sales just because it wasn't my temperament to go looking for listings like that. So I just didn't. And I was hoping the REO business would come back, but of course it didn't really in the Midwest. So then I just started wholesaling around 2012. And I've been wholesaling ever since, created another team because I had an REO team that dwindled from 9 people to me. And then as I built up the wholesale business, we're back up to 7 at the moment.
That's an amazing story. Few things resonated with me because I got my start in 99 as well. So it's been almost a 21-year journey for both of us.
Yes.
Next month we'll make 21 years. So
for sure.
I kind of shave all the grays so I don't hide them. You're showing yours willingly. I don't have the heart to do that yet.
Okay.
That's wisdom you're showing. So that's great, man. You mentioned that you had to retool after the market crashed, and coming in from the REO model, I think that was great because you had direct connections with the banks, and you were able to do that. And you said nowadays your shop is more wholesaling. Where is that market now? We're post COVID. Of course, still going on. It's not over yet, but we've seen a dynamic in the market where there's such a demand. Like, how in your marketplace in the Midwest, I'm assuming it's affordable homes that maybe less than 200,000, 150,000. How are you still able to dominate in that market with pricing so high at its peak right now?
Well, right now, the retail market, meaning the pretty houses, are selling like crazy. There's a lot of pent up cash. The rates are down to 2.5%, 3% at the moment, for a conventional buyer. And so as a wholesaler back in March, nobody knew what was going to happen. So I'm 95% a wholesaler. So the rehabbers kind of hunkered down because they didn't know what was going to happen. I think most of them would wish that they had bought everything they could get their hands on when it opened back up at the end of May in Michigan. Because we were shut down, the real estate business, by the governor from March 23rd till May 17th. You weren't technically supposed to be showing property during that time. So when that happened, I basically turned my business into a virtual business, which we were already at home anyway. The staff, we don't have a brick and mortar store. So it didn't really change our location. It just changed how we did business. So we created a Zoom link to be able to talk to sellers, created a way for them to get photos, made offers, turned offers into to 60-day options only. So in other words, we were taking deals down before COVID, no matter, if we couldn't assign it, because that's our MO, is to assign. So when about around May 1st, I had to let a couple of people go, one of which was my acquisitions guy. I went back into the field myself and still am doing cash appointments. But what happened roughly around early June was the retail market just spiked. In other words, everything started selling quickly. So more to the answer to your question, though, is my world kind of subsided because those rehabbers just decided not to buy. And even my best buyer today, he didn't start buying from me again until June 1st. He just waited. Although he went crazy. He's probably bought 10 houses, 12 houses from me in the last 2 or 3 months. And me realizing that he was hot to go, I started taking him on appointments with me so that I could buy and sell a house all in the same hour. Like he would walk through with me. I would then he would go away. He would text me like 5 or 10 minutes later. I negotiate with the seller, like on the spot with them, knowing what I could get this guy in for. And he loved that. He bought 4 houses from me in about 2 weeks doing that exact scenario.
Wow, creative.
Yeah, yeah, and he didn't care about the money. I mean, he didn't care about my price. So yeah, it was
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, during your 2021 year journey, why are you passionate for real estate investing?
well. I've got some, as a wholesaler, we tend to live off the stress, off of seller's stress, right? Taxes, mortgage, whatever it is, families passed away, whatever that is. Well, when I first started doing real estate, my journey at that point was I almost lost my house because I hurt my back, couldn't work anymore. Went looking for workman's comp to cover that. They cut me off. I had to sue them. So in the meantime of that 6, 8 month window, I went broke. Had to sell my house, all of that stuff. So I had some empathy. I then had empathy for that stress, right? So when I started doing real estate, I thought, you know what, this just kind of fits my MO. And I really like the chase of the deal, looking at all of the details and trying to put together the deal that makes the seller whole, if that's what it matters. Being creative about it with different kind of strategies, not just a cash hammer, as a good friend of mine calls that, is give them options that make sense to them, because we can do that. We have the resources to buy it, to give them some cash to get out of the way so that we can just take it over, whatever is best for them. And I love, love, love seeing the look on their face when they can put that together and they get it. Like the idea is they get over that fear of what all that moving pieces look like, and they can just walk away and say, "Hey, Ron, thanks for helping us out. We're glad that we called you." To this day, we got 30 reviews on BBB of various ways of those people thanking us of how we kind of help them through their situation.
That's amazing, man. Now we kind of talked about. Well, before I jump into that next question, you do have other sources of income as well. Are you doing any rehabs, any flips to kind of maintain when that market slowed down, or did you back away from it of that?
Well, we do rehabs when it makes such silly sense that we can't not do it. Like wholesaling it just doesn't. I mean, we could wholesale it and make 25 to let the rehabber have the cash. But if we could put that 25 and make another 40 or 50 on top of that, we'll do the rehab, which is where my son comes into play because he works for me. And then I've got 10 rentals that I've had for a while. I acquired most of those through helping a fellow investor get out of a city that he was hating. So I kind of took those deals from him a little heavier than I might have in another situation. But it's all working out now with the rates being so low and the way that a lot of these lenders are giving cheap money to guys like us too. And then I've got a couple rentals where I'm still carrying the seller's mortgages. what we call a subject to type scenario. So I've got 3 or 4 of those properties that we're just running, waiting for the right time to exit. But primarily we're wholesalers. I'm always looking to exit quickly. Our MO prior to COVID was to buy most things, kind of a wholesale is that term, where we buy it, clean it out, put it back on the MLS and move it out. But because of COVID, we just couldn't know what the numbers were going to be in regards to those exits. So we just had to protect our position. Recently, I mean, we had 12 houses going into COVID that we owned. I've lost money on 9 of those. And you had to get out of them, trying to get out of them with the hard money in place COVID has been brutal for me in those respects.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get some licks when the market transitions.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there are learning experience and processes you were able to put in place for that not to happen again. You mentioned your son. I want to talk about that a little bit because I had the chance to meet your son, and I'm doing some of the same things with my son. He just turned 18, and he just passed the school test and is about to take the state real estate test. And we were talking about
Awesome.
that, before we started recording. But you have your son working with you, and that's the it's going to take over the company soon, huh?
Yeah, I'm grooming him to do that. And now that was a process, meaning when he got out of high school, his mother's an educator. She's a semi-retired school teacher and a principal. So there was no question that he was going to college, right? That wasn't a question. So he started and went to college. He went 1 year to a school called Bob Jones in Greenville, South Carolina. His sister was there, so they spent the 1 year there together. But then he came home and went to school local. Well, his trek was to be an accountant in the business world, and he had gotten an internship with Meritor, which is a local semi-truck axle supplier over the U.S., but their headquarters is in Michigan. He got in there with another friend of his and was on that track to be an auditor or a plant controller, thing like that. Well, about 3 months into that internship, he watched a 55-year-old man get walked out the door with a box of his stuff in his hand, and they let him go. He saw that happen, and he was friends with this guy. He had become friends. He watched that happen, and he came to me and said, "Dad, I don't like that." I said, "Well, we got opportunity here. You need to do what you got to do. I'm okay with that." And, through a course of process, in his mind, he could reconcile, coming to work for me or doing real estate. Because the truth be told, he'll tell you that when he was in high school, or not high school, but when he was a kid, when I went through that back situation and started real estate, and then in 08 and 09 went broke again with the real estate because of the foreclosure market just tanked. He saw all that pain of the money, of me hunking down, selling everything in sight just to eat, hawking wedding rings, things like that, just to feed my family, and almost losing a house to a bank. He saw that. He didn't want any part of that. But when he saw the other side of it, like, well, there's no difference here. At least over here, in the real estate world, at least I can make my world. And if I lose it, that's because of my fault, not because of somebody decided to, right? So he's totally bought into Waymark Homes and being my successor. He's the best part of my weak spots in regards to he loves spreadsheets because he's an accountant, right? He got the schooling. He loves to work the numbers. I'm an overview guy. I'm a macro guy. He tends to be more detailed. Us teaming up that way has been an awesome thing for me personally, and also to work with my son. How cool is that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I get to
that's
see my
beautiful.
kid every day. And by the way, he provided me with a grandkid about 3 months ago.
Oh, that's
Uh,
beautiful.
yeah,
Congratulations, man.
yeah. So it's
Congratulations.
been awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing when you can kind of control your own destiny, so to speak, and pass those values on to your kids to be a creator of their own and make their own way. And that's some of the stuff that I'm preaching to my kids, my 12-year-old and 18-year-old. Hey, listen, man, it's for those of you who may find this, there's nothing wrong with punching the clock, but I'm not teaching my kids to do that. I've been independent working on my own for 21 years without having to do that. And I went through struggles and still go through struggles today, right? And the more you grow, the more struggles and challenges you go through. But that's what make us who we are, right, Ron? So
Yeah.
we got to figure out a way when we run through that adversity to actually help us, right? And I was so proud when my son came to me on his own, because of course I planted the seeds and did things like
Right.
when the market crashed, had him in the back seat riding around collecting rent and cash. Oh, where is this money? This is the real estate business. This is how it does.
All
This is
right.
how you do it. We don't drive around collect cash nowadays. We got that folio and other sophisticated
Right.
system. But for him seeing that, and then I would go as far as getting a rent check and saying, "This is what we made on rent money. We have a company together. Oh, well, it's 50-50, right? No, you get 25% because you have your brother also. I'm 50% of doing all the work. But before that gets to that, we have the
Yeah.
expenses. You have to go through the
Right.
process. So me over the years teaching them that and then really hammering on them through high school. And now they have financial literacy classes, which I think is a great tool because they didn't have that when I was growing up. And basically, him now on his own wanting to do real estate, it just gives me that great feeling that I'm doing a good job, and I know you feel that same way also, that you are able to pass those values and some of the things you learned to your son to be independent and create a life for yourself within the real estate business. So I know it's hard work. I know it's a lot. You don't have to tell me. It's consistent, head bunting and everything else, head butting, but I it feels good to know, and because I know what you're going through, that you're able to do that and pass it along. It must be a really good feeling inside knowing that you helping your son create
Yeah.
his own life. So
Him and I have breakfast every Friday, do two things, just to spend time together as father and son that way, but also to kind of brainstorm what's happening in our business and how to push it forward. And sometimes it's a half hour to an hour, and sometimes it's 3 hours. I'm going to look back at those times, and I do it intentionally. I'm sure I'm going to look back at those times with some fondness and just say, hey, thanks for all of the time. And he continually thanks me for being who I am to him as his father, but also being a business person and just persevering. He knows that his father will do what he says he's going to do every time with some integrity. So he's gleaning off of that reputation, in a sense, that I've created in my market as a honest REO broker, and also as an honest investor, right? We're looking out for our clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, from the beginning, not just to see how much money we can make off of them. And I've
yeah,
come to the table closing with cash many times to make things right with a seller because we said something and it just didn't work out, right? But I've also gone to that closing table and walked away with 100K in my pocket too, doing the same thing that we said we would do, you know. So I tell lots of guys that come to me as mentoring type things is, what? When you lose money, you're not that stupid. And when you make a bunch of it, you're not that smart. You're just you're just putting it together, right? It's just
yeah,
that simple.
yeah, man. Definitely, thank you for coming on the show. Just any parting words for anybody who's looking to get started. That any word of advice you can give them for a newbie who may find this video on YouTube or one of the social media platforms or the podcast. Getting started, because that's the toughest part, right? People to jump
Mhm.
out the window with wings growing down. So, what can you say to encourage those who's looking to get into this business and get started?
Well, I think the best thing, I think there's two things. I think when you start out and you're looking for that help, right? They all look for a mentor or whatever the guru of the day told them to find. When you're doing that, be humble. Absolutely start off with just being humble and get rid of your pride. You don't know nothing. And if you're coming to that 30-year veteran, you want him to give you some information, why would he do that? So I always look for that hunger in somebody with some humility. And then it's not difficult for guys like you and me to see that quickly because we know what that looks like in ourselves, right? Like, what does that integrity really look like? And then the second thing I would say is just persevere. You're not gonna get out the gate and don't walk around showing your first check, because blind squirrels get nuts too. So
Mhm.
you got to persevere once in a while, and then as soon as you make a little bit of money, don't be the expert on the planet. Keep yourself humble and keep moving forward. And God will take care of you at some point if that's what you believe. I do. What I get done is not because of what I do, it's because God allows it to happen and for me to read into people's lives in the way that we do. So
That's awesome, Ron. Thanks for sharing. It's another great episode. PFREI, Passion for Real Estate Investments. I'm your host, Fuquan Bilal. Oh man, I learned a lot today.
Awesome.
Blind squirrels gets nuts too.
Yes.
I like that. I'm gonna have to
Yes.
steal that. Appreciate you for coming on the show, man, and keep doing what you do. And
All right.
thanks again. I
What?
really appreciate it.